Welcome to Wiki Inspiration. My name is Stine Jensen and I'm a terminologist at the Terminology Coordination Unit, Term Code in the European Parliament. This tutorial that I prepared for you is to share good practices around the different language communities and get inspired by each other. The language wikis are placed in the platform Your Term. I will now talk a bit about this platform before we move on to the language wikis. Your Term is the interinstitutional terminology portal of the European institutions, a collaborative space of the IATE Management Group for communication and sharing of resources. It is hosted on a server of the European Commission, which is accessible to all users having an EU login. The objectives are single central access to EU terminology resources, tools and databases, efficient and user-friendly interinstitutional communication, sharing of information, linguistic knowledge and skills, improved functionality of IATE and all other interinstitutional terminology tools, create language-specific communication means and interest groups. To access the language wikis, you have to log on with your EU login to the European Union terminology platform, Your Term. Once you're here, you have a direct link to the language wikis down to the right. As you can see, each official EU language has their own wiki. The purpose of the wiki is the same as of the platform itself. It's to share information, material, and discuss on issues which are useful in a setting like the European, so that we don't lose information in emailing and that we don't leave any limitations in sitting in different countries. In Your Term, you also have a search option where you can search all content, including the content of the language wikis. The language wikis offer the possibility of working with page restriction. You can check whether a page is restricted or not by clicking on the little log up in the left corner. In this case, you can see that we're working with a page which has no restrictions. You can choose between two kinds of restrictions: editing restriction and viewing and editing restriction. I've now gone to the Irish language wiki to show you a good example of how to show the user if a page has been restricted. They have decided to write it directly on the start page itself, so that you don't have to click first and be met by this screen. If you want access to a page where you have no permission to view, you can click on Request Access and a notification will arrive to the Irish Wiki Manager. You even get the information of the name, and you will be notified by email. Normally, the language wikis are translated, as you can see here in the case of the Danish language wiki. The Danish language community also had a localization project carried out by the translation trainees in order to make the language used on the wiki more accessible for external users. Sometimes the language wikis are partly translated or not translated at all, as you can see here in the case of the Polish language wiki. The advantage of this is that we can navigate between each other's language wikis without being limited by language. As the language wikis are a place for collaboration between the institutions in the EU translation and external users, I personally find it very useful to work a bit on your profile settings. For instance, I've added the languages that I speak. The full name is by default, but I've added my email address, my phone number, the external web page of term code, my position, and where I work. Especially the photo, I find it very useful. It's easier to work with people that you have a face on. The structure of the language wiki is the same. As we can see here in case of the Italian language wiki, there's a menu to the left, and then on the start page there are links and an image. The content in case of the Italian language wiki has been linked directly to the start page. If we go to the Polish language wiki, we can observe the same structure with the menu on the left and then the links on the start page. However, the Polish language community has selected which content is most important to link. If we go to the English language wiki, you can observe the same structure, but I would like to point out the way that they have structured their menu of content to the left. This is an example of keeping the wiki very simple. You can see that they have a feature, which we all have, but it is on the right hand side. It's recently updated. If we go back to the Danish language wiki, you can see that the recently updated is with the normal layout on the start page below. You may also have noticed that the Danish language wiki has a warning up on the right corner. It's a warning saying that Mozilla Firefox is the best option for using the wiki. It can be closed by clicking on the cross. On LL Term Marketplace, you can find a lot of the possibilities that we have seen from the different language communities, and you can simply, by editing the page, copy the model that suits you best and paste it into your language wiki. If you get interested in a language community, you can watch the page. You would thereby get notified by all changes made to the page. You can comment and you can tag people. So I guess that all that's left to say now is, did you get Wiki inspired? I hope that you enjoyed the tutorial as much as I did, and please keep inspiring us. If you would like to continue this tutorial, there's a part 2 in which we talk about forums and decisions, expert and external collaboration, and other wiki possibilities.